Hey guys, it's Tom Box. 1 second. Okay, regain some life points. Hey guys, it's Tom Box. Welcome to MST.TV's annual segment of Top Tier Timeline, where we're gonna see the happenings of January all the way till December. We're gonna see how it changed. Luckily this year it was a lot easier to do because there's a lot less decks kind of floating at the top. It's been the same decks since the beginning to the middle to the end, so it was a lot easier, but we are going to talk about the change. So we're going to talk about ban lists, product releases, events. Those are the most influential releases that happened throughout the year that altered the meta. And PS, I might not remember everything, so feel free to leave a comment down in the comments section if I forgot anything. And I forgot about your deck, well, it's probably because it was really difficult to look up or I just completely missed it. This is a huge research. So make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe, ding the notification bell. If you want to help support me this Christmas, this holiday, check out the Patreon link down in the description. And anything helps, and you'll keep this channel running alive and strong. I've been really dying these days. If you guys are wondering why I'm wearing these glasses, it's because I've been looking at my screen for over 12 hours. And we'll check up on my life points maybe halfway through the segment, and every single like you put in there is going to help me gain 1 or 2 life points here and there. So anyways, thank you guys, and let's start off with January. And we got a ban list in January right away. Starting in January, we have one of the most influential releases of a ban list. This reshaped the meta slightly because it mainly just took away 1 or 2 decks and kind of targeted the hit towards Rongo Bongo combo, which was completely banned off the face of the earth because they took away Rongo and they took away Gumblar. So no more hand looping. None of those problem can happen because remember, anything that loops hand usually dies right in the next ban list if it ever gets discovered. And the other things that were hit were targeted towards Thunder Dragons, mainly Brilliant Fusion and Gold Sark, both being limited to 1. Brilliant Fusion, think about it this way. If you had a deck that could run triple Foolish Burial and triple E-Telly slash Rhoda, would you consider that deck to be strong? I would, because that was not a Foolish Burial, that was a double Foolish Burial plus a body on the field. That's a pretty major plus if you ask me, and they took that away. I played Brilliant Fusion Dino Thunder. It was my way of countering the meta of Thunder Dragon. If they spit out triple Colossus, I play 1 pill and everything goes to the graveyard. In fact, they just die because I OTK'd them. But they took that away, so that deck was no longer viable. And then we also have Gold Sark because that could act as either an E-Telly for Thunder Dragon Roar or as a Rhoda for Thunder Dragon Dark. But mainly it was to stop the combo of Battery Man Solar with 1 Gold Sark. And remember, Summon Sork was still live at the time. In terms of releases, Necros released a Shrit, and they have triple Brio, we have triple EEV, and we have 1 Construct. Yes, Free My Bay Construct movement happened here. That was the time that she got released. Anyways, but looking at the top decks, we have Altergeist. Altergeist survived the entire ban list. They didn't really do too much because they had such a weird matchup against Sky Striker. This is full power Sky Striker we're talking about. We're talking about triple engage, triple Widow Anchor, triple multi-roll. In fact, I don't know why they didn't perform better. I think it's because Thunder Dragons at the time were able to stop engage fairly well, and it was really easy. And it was like super easy to spit out triple Colossus thanks to Brilliant Fusion and the like. And it was very difficult to hand trap. If you didn't have the right hand trap, you're still staring down triple Colossus, and you can basically die from that. And sometimes it's double Colossus and a Titan. And if you think about it back then, this is before Nibiru and all those like Dark Ruler No More were able to kind of stun out the entire board. This is the time where you look at it and you basically eat it. And Super Poly was still at 1 at this time, so there was less counters at the time. And of course, Thunder Dragons still being a very strong deck. Thunder Dragons, well, they didn't lose anything in their core, so they're still around. And of course, Altergeist was the counter to Thunder Dragons. Sky Strikers were still around because they were still full powered. They were just the most consistent deck, even though they weren't able to push too hard. They had Hayate, but Kaina didn't exist yet, so they played slightly differently, and they also had slight issues to deal with Altergeist because Altergeist played what's that field spell? Secret Village of the Spellcaster, completely shutting out Sky Striker, forcing them to run 1 copy of the Ventriloquist Sisters, Clara and Rushka. And there is also another deck that was available, which was Trickstar. I can't remember why Trickstar was in here. I wrote this list a long time ago in January, but Trickstar was around. They still had all 3 of their field spells intact, not that limited stuff thanks to Orcus, of course. and moving forward, I think they still would have performed very well, especially when they still had the Droll combo that never got touched. Reincarnation never got touched in TCG, and that's kind of how January kind of shaped up after the ban list. Of course, the meta would settle a little bit better in February when we got a new release. And in February, we got arguably the best set of the entire year, Savage Strike. I don't think any of the other set was better than this one, but it definitely made a lot more decks possible to top. Now, Savage Strike gave us Phantasme, Pot of Extravagance, as two of the generic most influential cards of the entire year. Control decks love their Pot of Extravagance, and everyone loved Phantasme. In fact, it's still a very expensive card, even to this day, because of the lack of reprints. Now, on top of that, all the other archetypes gained a bunch of boosts. Orcus gained the Orcus Nightmare, finally shaping up to look like an actual deck. And Subterrors gained their Guru. Guard Dragon became an archetype. And, well, you got LP, Agripane, and Pisty, and all the other ones that you don't even play. So now this is when Guard Dragon was introduced into our game. And I believe there was also Time Thief that was a big influential part for this current meta. Why? Because Phantom Knight was still a very big deck at this time. And because of Phantom Knights, we got ourselves the Azathoth Turbo decks that we will talk about. But in terms of the top decks of the format, you guys might be wondering, hey, where's Salamangreats? If Salamangreats Soul Burner Structure deck was part of this month, well, let's just remember the release time of the entire month. You got the Savage Strike early, which gave us the Sunlight Wolf, but there was nothing to play with that Sunlight Wolf until later on. So Salamangreats would only start to influence the meta 1 month later, I guess the next month over. But it did give us Ash Blossom Joyous Spring as a common reprint, which lowered, or rather increased, the skill ceiling for the lower tier decks because everyone had access to Ash Blossom, and it was a $7 common, so it was just so worth it just to buy the structure deck because you got a top tier deck plus the Ash, so it was like win-win for everyone. So that was one of the good releases that Konami, in fact, there's actually a lot of good releases that Konami kind of put forward this year, and maybe next year will look, like the same way. Now, looking into the top tier decks, we have to start off with the Lunalight Danger deck, thanks to Raphael Nevin winning YCS Chicago with this particular deck. That's right, he surprised everyone. No one had Lunalight on their map until this point, so he really just put it onto everyone's mind. People at local started copying. It's like, oh man, I can finally play my Lunalight deck. My Lunalight deck is finally top tier. Well, it was still very expensive because it was still a danger variant of the deck, and it just had ways to kill people, thanks to the fact that a lot of the effects, Kaleido Chick and the like, well, they activate because of cost, and the only part that you really care about was the cost to go through. Everything else was kind of like icing on the cake. Guard Dragon Thunder was starting to take shape as well because Saryuja was a very big card, let's say that, because you get the LP and the Agripane, and they didn't really use Pisty at this time. Summon Sork was still a card available, setting up some of the nastiest board. I can't even remember. I played the deck, and I can't even remember it myself. It's been so long. And another deck that was very powerful, finally Orcus is starting to like take shape in the meta, but of course it was really influenced by the Phantom Knight engine. The Phantom Knight engine had Bardiche, Rusty Bardiche, good old Rusty that got banned later on, of course, but Danger Trickstar Orcus was a very scary deck. It was an Azathoth Turbo deck, thanks to the Time Thief release, so that only in TCG we could have done something crazy like this, or use the rank up magic of the Time Thief card to basically detach all your materials just so that you can use the rank up magic and convert that into an Azathoth, stunning out all monster effects for the entire duration of the turn. That was a very powerful deck, and not only that, your opponent still had to eat like Fog Blades and stuff later on because you still had the entire Phantom Knight engine. Now this next one is kind of a personal discovery. Someone asked me to do a favor for them, like, hey, can you make Infernities? So I did, and then with Saryuja and all those other cards that influenced it, I realized, hey, you can just special summon out Archfiend as many times as you need to set up triple negate, Borload Savage, and all the like, and you can set up a 7 negate board with 3 of them being counter traps, and that was a random thing that happened. I didn't really want it to go that far, but I didn't realize how consistent it was also going to be, so there was 1 or 2 tops here and there on a regional level. I'm not going to go too far with that one because people started to kind of counter it later on, but I remember there was someone that really enjoyed this particular deck, and ever since then, every now and then someone always asks, hey, can you work on a new Infernity deck? I can't because it's a lot harder with Nibiru. But anyways, Pendulums, shout out to Triff. Well, was he banned at this time? I can't even remember. He probably was still banned. I'm not too sure. But Pendulum was also a thing at this point. There was also a Lair Infernoid top, and Subterror started to take shape thanks to Extravagance, and boy was it an annoying deck. And in March, there's no significant releases. I can't remember if they released anything really cool. Maybe there was a special ed that kind of came out. Aside from like a special ed, I just really didn't think there was anything too crazy. Was there a special ed? I can't even remember. But if there is, leave it down in the comments section. But in terms of deck list, well, we gained ourselves ABC Danger. They finally realized, hey, I can just throw ABC pieces into the graveyard, and the name of the game is create the unbreakable board, or create the board that just grinds out your opponent to a dead end. And ABC Danger was able to do so because ABC and Lynx work very well hand in hand. But this is the time before Mystic Mine was even a thing, so combo decks were just running rampant everywhere. And speaking of combo decks, Salamangre is kind of like a combo control deck, but you guys kind of get the idea. They finally made their splash as one of the most loopable decks, very similar to Sky Striker to some degree. There was no real comparison at the time. It was a control deck, like, oh, the monsters are so weak, but how do you win? Well, I get to pop off all your cards and I get to control the entire board, being the combo control deck that, well, everyone really wanted to play, and it was really budget as well. You get all your search cards and all your gazelles in one structure deck. Now, Thunder Dragon Danger was starting to take shape as well. I believe you played 2 Saryuja at the time, one that's just free, the second one that actually used the Guard Dragon pieces, and you use Agripane to summon out your Hot Red, and Hot Red was super expensive at this very point. It was like a $50 card, crazy expensive, that no one really cared about until like the Guard Dragons came out. Danger Phantom Knight Orcus was also maintaining its strong status as one of the top decks at the time, and Azathoth combo and the like, and of course they can control you with their Fog Blades. And this is like before they even got the Orcus Dingirzu into their deck. They were already that strong. They just killed you afterwards. They were one of the decks that just spat out darks very, very quickly, and that means they are one of the quick users of Boros Sword. And yeah, that's how they started killing people. They still kill people with Boros Sword today. Sky Striker put themselves back on the map. It was kind of neat because whenever new decks come out, Sky Striker's like, oh, I just don't know what to negate at the time, so they don't perform well at one event, but then they take all that data and they just reconfigure their playstyle. They don't even have to reconfigure their deck too much. Like, oh, Widow Anchor this target rather than that target, and bait out like various Ash Blossoms with the engages, and you're good to go. And you still had triple multi-roll at the time, so it was really easy, and Subterror still maintaining its spot as one of the best control decks at the current format. Life point check. Did you hit the like button yet? You guys gotta hit that like button. I'm dying here. I'm like halfway. I'm not even halfway, and I'm at 4,000 life points. And hitting subscribe helps me gain 100 life points. Did you see that? See that? It worked. It worked. Finally, we hit April, and a much-awaited ban list has finally come upon us. We can say goodbye to our Summon Sork and our Phantom Knight rank of Magic, ultimately killing off Azathoth along the way. That's not completely true. It just took away the Phantom Knight variant of Azathothing me, and this is the Azathoth that stunned my opponent during their turn. So that's out of the way. Sky Blaster got put to 1 because it was a 1-card access to Saryuja, and it was one of the biggest baits for a hand trap. You have to hit it. You needed Veiler, or you needed Impermanence, or you're screwed because they're going to go into Saryuja, into Saryuja, into Saryuja, and you just don't have enough hand traps to kind of go through that. Kagari got put to 1 finally, simply because fighting against Sky Striker was like pushing a train up a mountain. It starts off pretty easy, maybe you can just push it off a cliff, but then you realize, hey, you're pushing it up Mount Everest, and it was just not gonna happen. Like, after 2 turns, if they're not dead, you're gonna die. They're gonna outgrind you, they're gonna out-resource you, engage into engage into engage, triple engage, multi-roll, triple Widow Anchor. They're just gonna loop their cards over and over and steal your cards, make a Boros Sword, and attack you for game. Very simple. And one deck that kind of kept them in check, funny enough, it was actually the Pendulum Structure deck that gave us the Mighty Master of Magic, because that card was a 1-card counter to Sky Striker, which made them kind of reconfigure out their deck because you can't destroy it and you can't target it. And that's ultimately the entire Sky Striker effect lineup for Widow Anchor and Afterburners. And they can't even use jamming ways to take it out because it can't be destroyed. So that was a 1-card out against the entire deck. Kind of kept Pendulum on the map and kept Sky Striker in check. But let's look at the deck list that survive and talk about some of the influences. Necros somehow popped up. I wrote down Necros many months ago. I'm guessing they started to kind of realize, hey, we can actually play too, guys. I think they also get their Vanity's Ruler variant later on, but this wasn't the list that actually had the Vanity's Ruler summon as a part of the deck. But they did kind of take place thanks to the Incantations. Salamangreats, still a strong deck. They were just ultimately untouched by the entire ban list, which kept them very strong, very high on the tier list. And Thunder Dragon Danger continued to wreak havoc. Now, because they took away the Phantom Sky Blaster, there was also like a slight change. People were starting to move towards Batteryman Solar plus White Dragon Wyver Burster, and using White Dragon Wyver Burster and Batteryman Solar, you were able to spit up 4 monsters. And finally, we started to use Pisty into our deck because it was free. You're just able to go into Darkest Diablos and just rip a card, then Levianeer, rip another card. This was then the whole Wombo combo, sit on 4 negates after ripping 2 cards kind of became a thing. And True Draco started to take place as another form of anti-meta. We have a lot more decks that are influenced by Monarch's Erupt, and it was a very, very annoying card, to say the least. And we also have Sky Striker, still among the top. Everyone thought that, oh, the Kagari to 1. I remember all those banlist predictions where we said, like, Kagari's probably going to get to, like, 1, or either that or Engage, and Kagari was the one that went to 1, and people were like, oh, deck is dead, let's jump train, and only to be, like, only to be surprised by, hey, guess what? Sky Striker won another major tournament, and they continued to do really well. Pendulum, of course, we finally get the Servant and the Servant Ash question starting to go back and forth between, yes, you can use it again if you Ash it, and or no, you can't use it again. This is when it started. It seems like every month it fluctuated depending on the event, and eventually it will get settled. But yeah, that was April. April was a huge month, guys. Let's go on to May. So May was huge, I have to say, because May completely changed the game. In fact, the most influential set came out right here. I wouldn't say it's the best set because I think the best set was still Savage Strike in terms of value, but in terms of gameplay influence, Dark Neostorm, well, took it by storm, simply because it introduced a lot of the major players. Right now we have major players such as Dingirzu, best rank 8 for like a very long time, easy to summon, put Orcus back on the map. Ib the World Chalice Justicar was also here, which gave us the Guard Dragon combo, the 1-card Guard Dragon combo from either using an Oviraptor or you can use a Draconet. That was a big thing. Control decks also gained a major boost thanks to Mystic Mine, which also influenced Mystic Mine Burn, the most annoying deck of all time. Although shoutouts to Yvonne, Mystic Mine Exodia, I really like your variant, and it was actually very fun to watch you play. Go check out that video. There was a live duel of that versus Orcus. It's hilarious. Shoutouts Phil too. And then we also have Crackdown and Brotar. Okay, every single set had a card in there that was a secret rare that a lot of us kind of underrated its price. Brotar was such a cheap card on release. I think it was the cheapest card of the entire set, and eventually it worked itself up to like be like a $20 card. Same with Chaos Dragon Levianeer. When Chaos Dragon Levianeer came out, it was cheap. It was such a cheap card that you just didn't really care too much about it because it was $10, and it eventually worked itself to 40. So a lot of the more generic cards, just remember that there are potential for it in the future. That's just how it is. And there's Gizmek was another one of those cards as well, but Gizmek required a little bit of a push. Okay, now looking into this one, like we got Dingirzu, Ib, Mystic Mine, Crackdown, and Brotar. Brotar gave a lot of consistency to the Danger Thunder Dragons because now we can search up Chaos Dragon Levianeer and less reliance on digging it out through the means of a Saryuja. So let's look at the top decks here. ABC Danger took top spots at the time. It's kind of surprising. I was like, hey, this one just showed up again, but it did hit a lot of top cuts in terms of regional level. And Danger Orcus, of course, they were going to make a resurgence right now with Dingirzu, one of the most annoying combos. Being able to completely just facilitate the double negations, Phantom Knights, and everything along the line, that was pretty ridiculous. Mystic Mine Burn also took wins at regionals as well, so that was immediately a top tier deck. One of the most annoying ones because a lot of the people did not run Twin Twisters. Remember, it was super monster centric at the time, and Mystic Mine and Crackdown kind of forced a change into our deck building, our side decking. Our side decks usually only put like 2 or 3 cards just for spell trap removal. We didn't even care as much. We didn't even put them in most of the time. We're like, oh, we'll just deal with it with monsters. And that was a thing. Sky Strikers shoved in Mystic Mine because they know that it can be an instant win con against some of the danger decks put out there because, well, we played Sekka's Light, and with Sekka's Light, it could just mean game over. And speaking of Sekka's Light, Danger Crusadia Thunder Dragon was starting to take shape as well, simply because getting the Reclusia, those are free summons, and with the Reclusia, you're able to pop a card, and you're able to search a dragon that's level 4, which can go into the Guard Dragon LP Pisty combo. That's why it was such a big deal, and most of us still played Sekka's Light. And thanks to Mystic Mine, that all had to change, and Sky Striker continues to take the top form because Sky Striker wasn't influenced by Mystic Mine. Well, they weren't affected by Mystic Mine as much simply because they can play it themselves and they can turn it off themselves because they had field spell. So people needed to play field spell decks. And this is when the format kind of became samey throughout month after month after month. As for June, in terms of like the format, it was super well defined. Not much to talk about. 4 decks were the most represented. I didn't include the other off decks because it was hard to dig them up. But we have Danger Orcus. I think this one still ran the Trickstar engine, Trickstar Field Spell, because one terraforming at this particular point was able to basically search you for your Trickstar Field Spell, and the only thing you care about going into is your first Nightmare Mermaid. If there's 2 back row, you didn't really care because you just used the Field Spell to lock out the back row. Then you Phoenix pops the other back row, and then you go into Mermaid. So in other words, anyone that was playing a control deck suffered a lot to that particular play, and it was ridiculous. And then there was also Salamangrates, still very strong. They just know how to play around the combo. They bounce cards. They are able to use counter traps to kind of stun out various plays. Sky Striker is still the top deck, and Danger Crusadia or Danger Chaos Thunder Dragon has really taken shape now thanks to the release of stuff in Dark Neostorm. Brotar started to gain a lot of attention. That's like, I completely underestimated Brotar, and then I eventually had to jump towards it. I was like, oh man, I pulled a Brotar, and then eventually it's like, oh man, I pulled a Brotar. So Brotar starting to become one of the most annoying combos with its little brother or older brother, LP. LP Brotar was the go-to combo, which gave you Chaos Dragon Levianeer. And into July, they had a really good product that came out that would stand the test of time for the rest of the year. That would be Battle of Legends Heroes Revenge, and that gave us the Vision Heroes. But in terms of major cards that everyone really wanted, Almirage was one of the biggest ones. BLS, the Soldier of Chaos, probably one of the most expensive cards released today. We also have Lambda for Psyframe. We have Magical Musketeer Max, and the reprint, or the first reprint of Boral Sword. And that was one of the more sought after cards. The funny thing is, at least here in TCGNA, the boxes were super lopsided. You either had all of those cards mentioned, or you had none of those cards and you got all new cards. Let's just face the facts. You all wanted these cards. Almirage, Lambda, Boral Sword, especially BLS now. BLS, when it came out, it was like a $20 card. And then by the end of it, it was like a $90 card, which is crazy because it wins the control matchup by itself. It's really, really strong. It's like an Avermax, but there also was the reprint of the Boral Sword, and even the reprint Boral Sword wasn't cheap either. It was like hard to pull. Now, looking at the influential releases, we gained ourselves a new set in July, Rising Rampage, giving us Appaloosa, Romulus, and Gizmek Orochi. Those were some pretty badass cards, not gonna lie. Appaloosa, probably one of the most useful cards right now, and one of the more expensive secret rares of the entire year. Romulus gave us access to Dragon Ravine relatively easily for most dragon decks, and is just in time to influence the Rocket Structure deck. And Gizmek Orochi, shout outs to you, Phil. You believed in the card before any of us did, and thanks to well, I guess thanks to Grand Maju, it became a very popular card, and eventually it will revitalize the Orcus deck. Now, looking at the giant, colossal ban list, it's a bit surprising that Thunder Dragon keeps dodging the list. It's like Neo dodging a bullet. He just dodges the list left and right. But in terms of banned cards, this was aimed towards the previous 4 decks. Eclipse Wyvern and Rusty Bardiche. Those needed to go. It just let us set up our plays consistently. We can search out our our Chaos Dragon Legionnaire super easily. We just banish it, we just add it back to our hand. That was how we fetched out cards before the Brotar era. And on top of that, limited, multi-faker. You know what? The problem was with Chaos, Thunder Dragon, Sky Striker, Salamangre, and Orcus. The problem was the Altergeist. They just needed to get hit along with us. So multi-faker went to 1. Black and White Dragon, they finally see it as a problem card because it was so consistent, maintaining hand advantage non-stop. Gazelle was a big one as well. Gazelle and Circle both going to 1, forcing Salamangres to finally drop money into their deck. You have to play Signet Mining, or else, yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do without your consistency? And then Terraforming and Metaverse both were hit thanks to Mystic Mine. Multi-roll, I guess another hit towards Sky Striker. Oh man, you just get to recycle all your cards anyways. Who cares about the 1 Kagari? Let's hit the multi-roll. And they put it to 1, but they only need 1. So kind of like a slap on the wrist in my opinion. And then Trickstar Light Stage got hit thanks to Orcus abusing it, using the 1-card combo, terraforming into Candina, Candina into Coralbane, Coralbane into the Nightmare Monster to basically end the match. And then there's a semi-limit. More dangers got hit, all the good dangers. 2 Secret Rares, 1 Ultra Rare. Nessie, Jackalope, and Tsuchinoko all got hit to 2. 1 would be ridiculous. And finally, they released more stuff to give us more control. Super Poly and Solemn Judgment. It's been a long time since Teledad, when Solemn Judgment was at 3. So that was a big deal. And Super Poly at 3, I thought that was kind of an unfair release because it didn't let people react to it. But I guess it was the necessary evil to break the unbreakable board simply by not letting people negate the stuff that was going to come after. At this point, I think Super Poly is a little bit unnecessary because we have cards like Dark Ruler no more. But I don't know. Everyone gets angry whenever I say that, so please don't thumbs down the video just yet. Now, looking into the top decks, this completely reshaped the meta at this point. Now, a lot of people kind of dropped Orcus simply because without the Rusty, they just didn't want to play it because, oh, what is a 1 Dingirzu going to do? Well, it's because you guys haven't figured out how to play pure Orcus just yet, or merge Orcus with other decks, or change it up. Now, also in the release of Rising Rampage, he also gave us Tenyi, and Tenyi Vishuddha is going to be one of the most influential cards in terms of going second. And okay, so looking into the top decks, we have Subterror. Subterror abusing the fact that now we have Super Poly, and abusing the fact that we have Solemn Judgment at 3, giving them a lot more control. Same with True Draco, maintaining control because they have the counter traps to do so. And they can also negate all your monster effects simply because they have a Monarch's Erupt. Pendulums, not touched by this ban list. Super happy about it. They're able to play, but then again, they're still playing Pendulums. Sky Striker, still very strong. People realize, hey, we're just gonna keep winning with Sky Striker. We only needed 1 multi-roll to begin with. Slight change in the deck list, not a big deal. Easy to manage. And Danger Chaos Thunder Dragon, still a thing. It's a surprise to no one because the deck is just super consistent, even though they lost like the easy part of their engine, but they can just put in, say, Draco now to keep playing. Okay, for the August list, I'm splitting into 2 parts. We got the Worlds list and we got the TCG list. Starting off with the Worlds list, Simo got banned on the Worlds list. Just kidding, guys. I jokingly talked about it, guys. Wow, 2 birds with 1 stone. For that, Konami invited, the first time like ever, they invited social media influencers as traditional Yu-Gi tubers. There's Team APS, myself, and Simply Unlucky. We were the ones from NA. We had our passports ready. We got to go. It was great. And you know what? Huge thank you to Konami for inviting me over to Berlin and being able to do the coverage over there. Wish I could have done more. I would have actually have a huge preparation list for anyone that would go, and yeah, there's a lot of preparation that you should really prepare for. But anyways, I got to meet a lot of cool people. Herman Hansen, I didn't know you at the time, but now I do know you because you are the Save for Thunder guy. You basically innovated my favorite deck currently, so I know who you are now, and next time I'm going to thank you in person. I got to meet Galileo, Raphael Nevin. As for the NA crew, there was Jesse Cotton, Minov, Gabriel Vargas, Cody, Angelov, Whaley, and Raymond Dye. And as for our Dragon Duelist, we have Lucas and Jacob. Jacob, I want to give you a special shout out because you were the one that was able to get your invite to Worlds without even a side deck. So I don't know anyone else that could actually achieve that. So that's a huge win on your part. Anyways, going back into Worlds, the top decks at the time there, Sky Striker, Salamangreat, and Danger Crusadia Thunder Dragon. This was a mixed list. But you did not use the July list, so you still had triple white and triple black dragon, which made Crusadia Thunder a really, really good option. However, you did, I think you were limited to only one Thunder Dragon Colossus, so that was one of the bigger hiccups. Of course, the winner was Koki Kosaka in the finals versus the previous reigning champ. I believe that was Wang Jiaqing. Yes, I believe he was the runner-up, and man, he just bricked pretty badly, and he got his board completely wrecked because of Mind Control. And now Mind Control is, of course, a very popular tech. But around the world, for the Worlds event at your locals, tons of Madolche players managed to take the top spot because everyone just didn't know how to kind of manage their list. Madolche did, and Madolche took 2 or 3 of those envelopes with the special card, and the other deck that took, I guess the card would be Gem Knight FTK. Shoutouts to you, Bauer. I hope you watched this video. Leave a comment, Bauer, if you did, because you won 3 envelopes with Gem Knight FTK, which is a feat on its own. So anyways, outside of the Worlds, let's go back to TCG. Okay, August, of course, we got influential releases such as Rocket Revolt, which was the structure deck. We also got the Gold Sarcophagus tin and the Mega Pack 19. Now, that being said, I want to mention that most of these cards came out the end of August, which is why you did not see them in play at the moment, and that's what influenced most of the August list. So we have YCS Portland, which I actually attended, guys. That was actually really fun to meet a lot of you guys. Really tiring to drive like 9 hours, but hey, it's all part of the game. So in terms of top decks, I want to mention Altergeist, DZ. Even though Altergeist got their multi-figure put to 1-to-1, he managed to top 2 YCSs back-to-back with Altergeist, which put Altergeist back on the map. And Orcus finally shaped up to be whatever it is. This is Honey, Jawari, and friends. They came up with the Orcus going second list, and it was very devastating. They didn't need to go first. They don't have to deal with a lot of the crap. This was before Nibiru, by the way, but they just were able to break board so easily, and because Nightmare Mermaid was still a viable card, they just needed to go into a Mermaid, break the board along the way, so using instant fusions, using Vishuda, using whatever that they had at their disposal to really crack the board and end the game. One of their biggest weakness would be a 3 or 4 material Appaloosa, just negating all their cards that they're trying to bring out, and that would probably end them, I believe. Then, of course, the most significant deck, underdog, the most cheered for deck was Grand Maju. It was Grand Maju versus Sky Striker for Portland, and ultimately Sky Striker ended up winning. So Sky Striker taking the top spot. Necros also taking a top 16 spot as well, and one of the more like frequent decks that you get to see was Dragon Link Rockets, because the structure deck came out, and this was all without Nibiru, Dimension Shifter, and Dark Ruler no more. Once those cards came out, Control and Combo, I think they were gonna have a role reversal because, well, Control is just so strong after you get these kinds of cards available in your card pool. And into September, nothing really big, but we get the influence of the tin cards taking root, which means Control is now taking over the game, and most of the combo decks are now just living in fear of the shadow of Nibiru. Looking into the sets, we get, I guess, Immortal Destiny, which wasn't very influential whatsoever. It just gave us heroes, and also showcased the problem of short printing, reducing the frequency of the card. Honestly, I don't think it's necessary to do that, especially when they don't really influence the meta as much. I think you could have probably flooded the market a bit more with some of these cards, but that's just my opinion. Looking into the top decks now, we have Luna Light Orcus. Now remember, Nibiru was the problem and people needed to answer it, and because of Nibiru, it also kind of shafted some of these Salamangreat decks, although Salamangreat was still very prevalent. At YCS Niagara, which I was judging at, I saw a lot of Salamangreat. I could have included Salamangreat onto this list, to be honest. Could have probably taken the hero spot right there, but the hero was also like a very strong regional contender because of the OTK potential that it had. Now, Luna Orcus was probably one of the most frequently played Orcus deck that I've seen. because it was able to eat the Nibiru. Simply by the 4th summon, they go into the Azathoth with the extra body, Nightmare Mermaid. Here we go. Just do the Mermaid combo at that point, and you have the same thing. Heroes were able to quickly OTK people with Ferris and Increase, and with that kind of influence, it was another deck to be reckoned with. A lot of people kind of got off guard because they didn't know what the deck did. And then we have Pure Orcus, another very solid option. But I don't think that was the strongest option, but Pure Orcus probably grinded better than Salamangreat. Salamangreat had a bit of a Nibiru issue because the moment you lose all your link monsters, your back rows are dead, everything's kind of useless, it's just very hard to play. Grand Maju, being an aggro deck without combo, survived the fall of Nibiru, so this is after the fall. Cyber Dragon Orcus was another very strong Orcus contender. If you look at it, there's 3 Orcus contenders in this current format, which is why Orcus was so ridiculously strong. Unfortunately, they didn't exactly have the best Sky Striker matchup, but Cyber Dragon Orcus was able to spit out Cyber Dragon Nova pretty early on. And with the Nova, you can't really Nibiru it because it will summon out a fusion monster out of the extra deck, and with your token, that means they can go into their Orcus combo thanks to your token, and they can just basically bypass all the problems, and another deck that can eat Nibiru. Everyone was basically, if you're playing combo, you have to be able to eat the Nibiru because a lot of people started to main deck it. Sky Striker was Sky Striker. They didn't care about Nibiru. They can Nibiru, and I believe people started to, well, the combo of Utopia Double was just so popular, it was just part of the game. So it was like, oh, you leave it to something that I can punch over for 10k, well, I will punch it over for 10k. And because of the reduced frequency of seeing the Guard Dragons, well, the Guard Dragons kind of stuck around. They just side or main deck Twin Twisters, did not rely on Sekka's Light, and the Sekka's Light belt definitely fell down in popularity until the meta kind of just like, oh, they probably don't exist anymore, so people started to play Sekka's Light again, people reducing the amount of Mystic Minds that they played. And now we're down to October. We're almost at the finish line, guys. Influential releases, we got Chaos Impact and Dual Devastator. Chaos Impact gave us IP Masquerena, which revitalized Orcus. And we also got a ban list. The ban list of Agripane Mermaid. Those are the 2 big ones. And then Widow Anchor went down to 1. So those would be the big hits. But in terms of decks, go ahead, Sky Striker wins YCS London with the 38 copies of Sky Striker Engage. I'm just kidding. He just happened to draw a ton of engages in his final match. Subterror continued to dominate because it's such a strong deck now. It's really one of the most annoying control decks in my opinion, and also eats up Thunder Dragons like no tomorrow. Pendulum's still very strong. They can just set up the same boards and they're immune to Nibiru for most cases. Orcus, every variant of Orcus in here still is very powerful, although they can't rely on Mermaid anymore, the most consistent engine. It's fine, they can still set up their board, and with IP Masquerena, they just have like 10 things they can do on your turn, which is why they're still probably the best deck currently, and they just adapt. Pure Thunder Dragon, because Thunders were never hit, they just continue to play. Nibiru, Salamangreat started to see resurgence. Actually, they were also part of like YCS Niagara. A lot of the top cuts were Salamangreats, but a lot of them main deck Nibiru now just to deal with a lot of these boards. They can just break a board quite easily, and they just have to loop you till you die. Against Sky Striker, winning events. I don't think Sky Strikers are weak by any means. And in fact, they're readapting now. They actually shove in a different engine in November. And Herman Hansen came up with Safer Thunder Dragon, and that really influenced me to continue to play combo because I love Thunder Dragon. It's my deck, it's my soul, I don't know, my spirit animal. Is that a thing? Spirit animal? Sure, let's call it that. Safer Thunder Dragon, so that's why Herman Hansen, hats off to you once again. And now we're going to go into November. Into November, not much to add. As you can see, the entire deck list never really changed. It's still the same stuff over. I think the most of the influence actually came near the end of November when people started to re-innovate their Orcus and Sky Striker deck, which is kind of sad because they are still the top decks on the format. And finally, we're in December. If you look at the list, not too much has changed. I just included some of the other most recent regional decks that I have caught a glimpse of. Madolche hit the top 8 in regionals. Then there is Triff getting his top, but he used Orcus, guys. False God. How could you? But I don't know. Is it playing Pendulum? I guess it's still Pendulum. Sky Striker Orcus is now a thing. Seems like the two decks that are dominating are starting to merge with other decks. Sky Striker Orcus being able to handle more situations now because of the Sky Striker engine, and IP Masquerena being the only monster you maintain gives you that flexibility. Pure Thunder is still around. Gladiator Beast, this was more of a PPG kind of thing. Gladiator Beast hit a top 8 at a PPG. The list is pretty simple. I've got a similar deck list somewhere on my channel right now. And Sky Striker shifted more towards merging with True Draco. You got True Draco, Sky Striker. Very interesting stuff going there. You can actually watch Cody Angeloff play it on his Twitch stream, so I highly recommend you go checking out his stream. If you guys want to watch in first person a pro player play online, check out Cody Angeloff. Random shout out to you. It's Gooball Gaming, and there's also Safer Thunder Dragon, which is still another deck. It's really scary, but the shift now towards Safer Thunder Dragon is not to spit out a board that has like a ton of negation, rather a board that's able to negate the graveyard or prevent the graveyard. So going into a Dweller is more important than maintaining a Colossus in most cases. You want to put out a Hope Harbinger and an Abyss Dweller, and that board, guess what, is not super polyable either. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, I guess that's it. Sky Striker basically lived through every single month this entire year. I think it's about time that we kind of put Sky Striker into the backseat. Hopefully Konami releases a new archetype that can just take its place, or just ban out Sky Striker entirely. I mean, you guys have reprinted enough of that stuff, right? Right? Anyways, that is all I got for this video. Guys, enjoyed this video. My life points is at this. Please hit the like button. Help me out. Hit the subscribe button to stay tuned for more stuff for next year. Well, there's still more stuff coming this year. I still got a lot of fun, more quirky content because we're at the end of the year, and we're just waiting for new things to kind of kick off. Well, make sure you subscribe. I think ban list talk is coming up very soon, and check out the Patreon link. Really appreciate it if you guys can check out the Patreon link. All of you guys, anything that you guys can contribute really helps this channel grow. And apparently recently I got promoted at work, and I'm trying to find a minion. Anyways, until next time, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you guys in the next one.